He said he's a highly trained unprofessional. So that's
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 pretty
what I
good.
consider myself.
Yep.
It was Texas, it was Tennessee.
Howdy, folks. Welcome in. You have arrived at the Texas to Tennessee podcast, second show of the night. Very excited.
Yeah, that's right.
My name's Steve. This is Soul Gravy up there. And tonight we are thrilled to have on our friend Branden Martin. Branden, welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Mhm.
If you don't mind, maybe just taking a couple minutes and giving us a little bit of your backstory, and then we'll get into shenanigans after that.
All right. Well, just kind of same old story type of deal. I always grew up around music, and mom listened to it a lot, and we was always we was going somewhere or whatever, and listened to it in the house and things, and I wrote a lot of poetry in school. Of course, never did tell anybody because I didn't want my hind end whipped. And then I got my first guitar when I was about 13, and figured out pretty swiftly that if I put that and the poems together, it's almost a song. I started doing that sort of thing, and then played all the covers that I liked. At the time, so I didn't have access to internet or whatever, so just had the radio or the tapes I had laying around. So I had a lot of Johnny Cash and Waylon and Merle and a lot of bluegrass stuff. So that's the kind of songs I was playing. Played around cookouts and whatnot, starting out, and then you kind of progressed to whatever kind of gathering was going on in town. One of the local places, local things here in town, the May Day big shindig they do in town. I played a couple of those, and so on and so forth. Started doing the bar thing, and then all of a sudden turned into a daggone living. I was unaware that I could do that sort of thing and make money for it. I thought I was going to work in a sawmill for the rest of my life, and it just worked out. And got to fall in with a lot of good songwriters, and kind of as much as I thought I had my writing figured out, I figured out pretty quick that I did not. And there's lots of ways to go about it, better ways to look at it, and come at it from this angle or whatever. And that's something I'm still working on. So yeah, it's just been a kind of something I fell ass backwards into. Really didn't know that I could do this sort of thing, but yeah, just fortunate enough to get to do what I love, to pay for my farm.
There you go. Well, we hear a lot of people, and I don't know if this is a fair question to hit you with right off the bat, but we hear a lot of folks complain about, and rightfully so, complain about streaming and socials and all those types of things. But do you think you would have been able to have your career without streaming?
That's a good question. I'm still that stuff still boggles my mind. I don't really know a lot about as far as the details and that sort of thing. I think it definitely makes this easier. As much as it saturates the market, it also helps out a lot.
Sure.
But just even if it's just Facebook or YouTube, not to mention Spotify and Apple and Google and all that stuff. I think it makes a great big difference. It makes it much more accessible. And like I was talking about not having internet when I was a kid, if I had had a phone back then, it's hard telling what kind of music I could have got a hold of back then, rather than just having my base, whatever. So I think I'd still do it. It'd probably be different for sure.
You bet.
Definitely be more likely as not more local based cat than I would be traveling the country and doing this. So
Yeah, cool.
I think it does make a difference.
Alrighty. Well, this is the part of the show where I get to quiz Soul Gravy on famous folks from your hometown. Um, Soul Gravy, I'm just going to warn you, it's going to be hard.
Okay.
Uh, Branden, from what I understand, is from Owensville, Kentucky. Is that correct, or close
Yep.
by?
Yep.
Okay, good. I got that right. It screws up the show if I get that part wrong. Owensville is in northeast Kentucky, approximately 1,500 population. Does that sound right?
Yeah, give or take.
Okay. All right. Famous for the Kentucky Meat Shower Festival, which I don't know anything about that. I need some clarification if you don't mind before we start quizzing Soul Gravy.
I don't remember the specific. Matter of fact, I'm wanting to say, it was March or April of 18 something or another. They still don't know exactly what it was, but there was some meat that fell out of the sky for a little while. There's actual specimens in there somewhere that they've been in formaldehyde so long at this point they can't actually test it and figure out what it was. But there's speculation as to it could have potentially been a buzzard threw something up, or I've even wondered if maybe somebody wasn't using a steam engine somewhere and it blew up and it scattered Merle down the street or something. But
Right.
yeah, nobody knows what it was, but there was some meat that fell out of the sky in Bath County back in the day in Olympia.
That might be the wildest story that we've heard on so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, go check it out, folks. It's real. Alrighty, Soul Gravy. First off, I just want to say good luck.
Okay.
George Nicholas Bascombe.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with George's work, I don't believe.
Well, George was a U.S. Army officer whose arrest of Chief Cochise started the Apache Wars.
Okay. Shout out to George, I think, maybe.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's complicated.
John Bell Hood is the second one. We have one more after this.
No, I don't think I'm familiar with. I don't know too many people that have two last names.
Yeah. John
Maybe
Bell
I do, but
Hood, no relation that we know of to our friend Adam Hood. By the way, 7 minutes in,
7 minutes in, yeah.
Adam Hood reference.
Yeah.
He was a pretty well-known Confederate general.
Okay.
John Bell Hood, and then Andrew Trumbo.
Was he in the military too? I see a theme.
I don't think so,
No,
but I'm not positive. He might have been.
Did he invent the trombone? No.
I don't believe so. No.
Okay.
Mr. Trumbo was a U.S. representative from 1797. Well, no, that's when he was born. He died in 1871. But,
I didn't think about
had a long
Northeast
life.
Kentucky being, so political.
Yeah, well, shout out. Aside from Brandon, those are the famous folks from Owensville. So,
Okay.
Brandon, thanks for letting us
I'm
do
glad
that.
the list was short.
We always learn a lot. So, all right, this is the weirdest question I think of the evening. It will get significantly easier after this question, but we call this one the pie question. And we're going to give you a musical pie, and we want you to divide it up into 4 sections. The 4 sections of the pie include songwriting, recording, performing, and then everything else that goes into running your business. So, which of those areas do you think you naturally go to, or what do you feel like, okay, this is what I'm actually the best at out of those 4 areas?
That's a good question. I think I put the most attention and work into the songwriting for sure.
Okay. And then out of those other 3, what would you say probably comes next?
Let's see. What was the other 3?
Performing, studio, and
then everything,
business.
the business side of it. Yeah.
Performing is definitely number 2. That one would have actually been a close tie, but yeah, number 2 would have to be the performance.
And do you feel like performance is kind of the reward for the rest of it, or is there I don't know, everybody views performance a little bit different, but where does it sit in your brain?
Yeah, it depends on a variety of things. Definitely feels rewarding sometimes. But like I say, when I say put the work into the songwriting, so that's I put a lot of attention into it. It doesn't feel like work. None of it. The only thing it feels like work is the business part of it. To be honest with you,
Sure.
Performing when I don't know, it's when you get the right crowd, the right room, it's definitely a treat. And other times you gotta try some. So, but for sure, performing is definitely a treat for me anyway.
And Brandon, when did you, I guess, kind of realize on the songwriting side that was where your, I don't know, one of your many gifts was, or when did you kind of really start to tackle that?
Actually, putting work in as a songwriter, like I said, I used to, I rhymed lines as long as I can remember, and even tried my hand at a little story writing or whatever, just for myself, just because I like to write things down. And even when I could get lyrics printed off for whatever song I wanted to start playing, I would actually take them and write them down myself, just because I enjoyed the process of it. I shortly after I got my guitar, once I figured out I could actually take that poem and that guitar and make a song out of it, and I've never really been able to separate the two. I can't. I've wrote without a guitar before, but it's kind of like leaving the house without my hat on or something. It's just a little strange. But so probably around when I was about 14 or so, I really realized that the songwriting was something that I was definitely interested in, and I had, good or not, I had a knack for it. It was I could put a song together. I wrote a lot of turds back then. But
Well, I mean, that's part of it, right? Like
oh
you
yeah,
have to. You don't write Poncho and Lefty as your first one.
that's right.
I mean, maybe you do, but pretty tough. But just to talk a little bit about the actual process, everybody, it seems like everybody that we talk to has a little bit of a unique process in terms of getting the songs out. What does yours look like? Is it all, writing down notes, or is it talking in the phone, or is it a combination of a bunch of different things, or?
I've done a little bit of everything. I've got a list of notes on my phone now. I used to carry around a little. I can't remember what those were called. It's a little leather bound black notebook that you can fit in your shirt pocket. I kept those around forever and would just randomly write whatever down. I wrote down on napkins and things. I keep, obviously I've got the phone with me now, so I keep notes in that. And I've got, I don't know how many voice memos. I'll think of something in the truck or whatever, or if I think of something when I'm sitting on the couch, just picking on the guitar, I'll have a melody that I want to do, and I'll get that. And that, like I said, that usually goes hand in hand. I usually write the music, melody, and the lyrics all at the same time. It's just that's kind of where my head's at most of the time with it. But I've done a little bit of tried all the tricks that I know of currently. And every time I find out a new way to go about it, I'll try that for sure. Because in the sake of productivity, because that's not, I don't spit them out like some folks I know. I wish I could, but I'm strictly inspirational, so I can't. It's harder for me to just sit down and do it because I feel like I need to, rather than the need to get it out of me. If I'm inspired to write something down, then they just fall out when that's the case. If I force it, then just usually, if I'm not in it, it's not going to work out. It's going to be a bad song.
That makes sense. And then in terms of, sorry, I don't know this, but do you like to co-write, or do you prefer to kind of keep it to yourself, or?
It depends on the song. I love to co-write, especially people. I'm always up for writing with new writers, and I've got a handful that I write well with. That I love to write with. Leslie Satcher and Rye Davis are two of my absolute favorite people to write with, and we usually will nail one anyway. Good, and I can't think of a bad song I've wrote with either of them. So even if it's not something that I perform every show or whatever, I usually come away satisfied with either one of those folks. So I love co-writing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Though as far as there's been some folks I've sat down with that we both sat down as artists rather than songwriters, and it was really hard to get something going because of that. Not that we were butting heads; they just had a direction they wanted to go with it to fit their style, and I was doing the same thing. We were just heading different directions. So.
Okay. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. Well, I was going to go one direction, but you mentioned Rye Davis. We just had Rye on the podcast. Great dude, great talk. How did that connection we'll work backwards. How did that connection with that camp? How did that all happen?
So shoot, I don't remember how long it's been. I played a show in Bowling Green with Steel Woods a handful of years ago at the warehouse, I think it was. And Rye happened to they came to the show, and he came to speak to me. And I hadn't been long out from under my rock here in Bath County, so I was still pretty backwards. And they told me this later on that him and Brandy thought I wasn't a real nice guy because I didn't speak to him. I just didn't know how. I told them that. I was like, man, I just didn't know what to do with people. I wasn't being rude or nothing. They used, Rye's got a great big personality. To come over there, it's like, I'm Rye Davison, did the whole thing. And I was like, hey, I'm Branden Martin. I just turned around and just started doing my own thing again. And then it went a while because, like I said, they thought I blew them off. And I came and saw him in Lexington at Austin City, and we again kind of didn't have anything going on. We happened to play a writers round in Nashville together at Belcourt Taps, and I had this song idea in my head anyway that I'd started, and it just I had what I wanted to get down. I just didn't know where to go with it next. And Rye's a great story songwriter, and I chased him and Brandy down a dark street in Nashville. I tell everybody it's the wonder he didn't turn around and whoop my hind end. I said, he's a big old boy. He could have done it pretty quick. And I said, hey, y'all, I got this song. What you listen to? And then that started the relationship. And then we went, when we could catch up, we'd catch up, play a few shows together, whatever. And then here recently, me and him and his wife Brandy is really putting the work in. She's working harder than all of us, and started this long haul entertainment. And she's booking me around now and putting us around, and it's been really great. We got to play more shows together, and he's one of my again, not only just one of my favorite people to write with, he's one of my favorite people to play a show with too, because he's a fantastic performer and really entertaining with that stage presence that I do not possess. So, but
I was going to say
been great.
that is something as far as your personalities are different like that, but you can work together well on, which really makes sense, honestly. Like if both were low key, then it wouldn't work as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the Stillwoods, so I was gonna go there. Anyways, you and Wes kind of carry yourselves about. I don't know Wes personally or necessarily, but I've been around him a little bit, and you kind of carry yourself similar as far as you're just kind of to yourself and nice when spoken to, but you know what I mean, not just looking for a conversation necessarily either, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm similar, even though we're on a podcast. I'm kind of in the same way too. So, but that stood out for one. But I first heard your music at a Stillwood show. You opened for the Stillwoods in Memphis.
Oh yeah.
I got the T-shirt in the closet. Yeah, that was the first time you came on the radar. So whenever we started this thing, I was like, okay, that was one of the names. I was like, we're gonna eventually get to talk to Branden about all that. So
yeah.
So how was I could tell that you're a fan of the Stillwoods. I mean, most of us are.
Oh, yeah.
But how was? Yeah, yeah. If you're listening to this podcast, there's a really good chance that you're a Stillwoods fan. Sure. They cross a lot of lines into a lot of different areas of the world. I guess how was that as far as I get the feeling that you weren't too far into doing the touring thing and all of that kind of stuff when you were playing those gigs.
That wasn't really at all. That was actually some of my first more on the professional, larger scale shows at the time. So yeah, they
Was that around the same time that you met Rye?
it was it
Okay.
well, and when we played the Memphis show, I can't remember exactly when that was.
Yeah.
Uh, that was
I know it was at Lafayette, so I can't
yeah.
remember the.
We were quite a few shows in at that point. I want
Okay.
to say that the show that I met Rye at might have been the second or third show that I'd ever played with them. So we
Okay, it was before that then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was before the Memphis show.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I mean, what I think about situations like that is that's people that go see bands like the Steelers are pretty hardcore. As far as like Blackberry Smoke and whatever, they're into that band. They're in the Facebook groups and
Right.
all that. But it seems like a perfect opportunity to make some, to pick some fans because they're how do I say it? They're already looking. They look for new music when they found the Steelwoods, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah,
It seems like a great opportunity for folks like you to be put in front of that audience, if that makes sense.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had? Do you know if you've had any folks like from those kinds of shows pick up your music and follow you from there?
I'm almost certain of it. It was a lot of the people that I ended up, however you say it, carrying over whatever from those shows. I knew a handful of them to start with because I'm also a big Blackberry Smoke fan. So a lot of the cats that were at the Steelwood shows were also at the. As a matter of fact, first time I ever saw the Steelwoods was in Glasgow, Kentucky, when Blackberry was still playing down there, and they opened for them. And so a lot of those fans were in that circle anyway. So I knew a bunch of them to begin with. Whether or not I played in front of them, they had seen me and I'd seen them. We got to speak or
Right.
whatever. And then when I started playing with them, I kind of didn't have their attention to begin with, but I was worth looking because they recognized the name or whatever. And all together, it definitely got some fans from playing with those guys though. And it helped. It wasn't an oddball fit either. So like,
Right.
I'd go play in front of, whoever. And if those people don't really listen to my type of music, it doesn't work out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I was the Steelwoods fans like my style, so that and some of them, not all of them, but you know what I mean. That
Yeah.
I definitely came away for the better having played with those guys.
Yeah, you and Wes aren't just miles apart in a lot of ways. So I can see that. The other thing I was going to ask, a lot of people that yeah, me included, we don't really know the amount of music that comes from Northeast Kentucky or Eastern Kentucky in general.
Mhm.
And then like through the podcast, that's opened my eyes to a lot of people, like Bill Taylor, for instance, and different folks. So I guess your music though it was kind of backwards. I found your music before the podcast and before I met all those other guys. But to tie that back together, Bill was just on a TV show, one of them singing TV shows,
Mhm.
and you were on The Voice at one point in time. How you're a pretty low key guy. How did you get talked into doing that, and how did that happen for you to even try to do something like that?
I was tricked into it.
Okay, I was,
Yeah. So the first time I ever did a competition type thing was a local thing here around, and uh, some buddies of mine kept talking about it, and I said, "I'll do it if y'all shut up." And I did it, and I won. And of course, they blew it up. They thought it was the greatest thing, and it was cool. But from that point forward, I really realized that I didn't care for the competition thing. It just felt
Right.
gross to me.
Understood.
And so my manager at the time, we'd make a random trip. We'd go to Mississippi or to New Orleans or wherever, just because he had to be there and needed a driver. He'd say, "You want to go to Louisiana?" I said, "Well, sure." And then it was something like that. So he's like, "You want to go to New York City?" I was like, "Well, hell yeah, I ain't never been to New York City." And I guess in the background, they had got me set up or I don't know how it worked, but they had signed me up to do the auditions. We'd missed the boat in Atlanta, so we had to go to New York City. That was the next one that we could actually drive to, and we was going up there. And then about the time we got to New York City, they was like, "Oh yeah, you're trying out for The Voice." When we get up here, and then then we was there, and I ain't hard. It's hard for me to quit something, even if I didn't know I was getting into it. So I just kind of went through the motions and ended up got on the very first episode, and they sent me the house, which was okay too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
It just stood out to me as far as your personality and the TV thing and whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I was curious of how that all come together. So
Yeah, that definitely wasn't by choice.
well, I don't know very much about those shows. We have talked to a few folks from time to time that have done different competitive, I don't know what you want to call TV shows or whatever, but what was different about that than what you anticipated, or what was your general experience like?
Looking back at it now, it was a cool experience. I'm glad that I did, because New York was its own culture shock. And then when I went to LA, the first time I was over for a couple of weeks, and the second time I was there for a month. And I was really just kind of this. When I went to LA, I was there by myself too, so there was nobody that I knew, and I was just kind of. And I had always assumed that they picked me up in New York just for flavor, because they wasn't the one of me up there at that time. And just kind of picked me out of that crowd, because there were people that sang way better than I did, for sure. In my opinion, they were great, and people that really, really wanted it too.
Right.
And when I got over there, it was the culture shock thing was a little weird, and the pace of it was super quick. And it being television, that's something I've come to experience too. Just in general, even a news interview, they've got things to do, and it's just, let's get this done, got to say this in this amount of time or whatever. And I don't know, it was an experience altogether. Not fake, but not naked honest either. Just kind of right. It's a television show, so I get that now. At the time, I thought it would be more real, and I guess anybody would. Just in general, just things was what you saw, but in true reality TV show fashion, it wasn't, because you can't show everything.
Right.
And the thing that really got me was I was. I don't know what they call it, B-roll stuff or whatever it was. It's kind of some filler material, and they were asking me questions, and they wanted to know what I'd do if I didn't win. I was like, "Well, I guess I'll go home and keep doing what I've been doing." And they said, "You won't be disappointed?" I said, "Well, sure, I'll be disappointed, but I ain't gonna quit." And they said, "Well, say something like you'd be disappointed." And then, like, "Well, if y'all want somebody to say something in particular, write it down and I'll read it or something." I kind of got on their nerves. And I wasn't trying to be a smart ass. I was just like, I don't know. Y'all ask me questions, I'm answering what you asking me, kind of a thing. And that from that point forward, I was kind of over it. I was like, this ain't real.
Could you even though it didn't necessarily square peg round hole sort of thing, was it still something as far as resume wise that you found that you could hang your hat on, at least as far as bookings and whatever else after the fact?
I could have, and it has made a difference. I don't use it just because I just didn't like the thing, the whole deal. It just felt gross to me. So I don't run around and say, "Hey, I'm Branden Martin. I was on Voice whatever year it was."
That's exactly what you said to me in Memphis. No,
people do bring it up, and if they feel like it's going to get a better draw for their venue or whatever, I don't tell them to take it off there, but I don't say, "Hey, this is something I did."
You. Understood.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, hard to believe, but we're at halftime, so
Okay.
Are we ready for a little?
Yeah,
Little
yeah. I was
music?
gonna go. Yeah, the halftime song is off of his latest album from 2022. It's uh, he told me to pick a song, so I picked my favorite one is Kentucky Heartache. So anything you want to give us a little rundown on that song?
That was first song that I ever wrote with Jim Beaver, and he gave me some sound advice on that song. So we'd actually, this was 1.5 that we had wrote. We wrote half of another one, and we're just beating our heads off the wall trying to figure out where to go with it. And he said somebody had told him years ago too, and he passed it on to me. He said if you're beating your head off the wall like that, he said just always write the next song because it usually will turn out, and it did. We got it on the record. So
All right.
Advice.
All right.
Alrighty.
Sounds good. Here we go. Kentucky Heartache.
Well, my baby took off and left me crying like a steel guitar. So tonight I'm holding up in this Moorhead bar. No offense, bartender, but I don't need a friend. I need to be anywhere other than the state I'm in. Give me Carolina moonshine, California red wine, Tennessee whiskey, or Colorado, baby, I don't care where it comes from, as long as it takes the pain away from this hardcore Kentucky heartache. Well, I'm a proud son of Kentucky, but there's something in these hills that makes a hurt that bourbon just can't kill. So I'm calling on my neighbors, won't you lend a helping hand? Send me a bottle, a mason jar or can, full of Carolina moonshine, California red wine, Tennessee whiskey, or Colorado beer. I don't care where it comes from, as long as it takes the pain away from this hardcore Kentucky heartache. Carolina moonshine, California red wine, Tennessee whiskey, Colorado beer. I don't care where it comes from, as long as it takes the pain away from this hardcore Kentucky heartache. From this hardcore Kentucky heartache.
There you go.
Man, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but I took that picture down right as they stabbed the music right there. It was right on time, like a professional.
That was well done, Soul Gravy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Branden, for those of you that just joined, wherever you may be on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, thank you for joining. This is Branden Martin we're talking with this evening. Branden, I want to ask you a little bit about your team. So can you tell me a little bit about the folks that kind of help you get things done?
absolutely, yeah. So, well, right this minute, we're kind of rearranging some things, trying to not scooting anybody out the door, just getting people everybody that are on helping me out doing my thing have got their own lives and their own thing. They're not dedicated to that music in general, really, and hadn't been for a while. So that's one of the reasons I got with Brandy and Rye on this long haul entertainment thing. So Brandy Davis is brains behind most of it. She's booking the shows and keeping the fire lit under my hind end for sure, and trying to get me moving on that. And I've got my girlfriend helps keep the merch store going and keeping the table running at the shows, and uh, Katie running the website and things, keeping it looking nice. And when I remember to keep my secretary, I don't know how you would say that, my secretary skills are going, and sending all the dates to where they need to be, and getting that posted. So everybody does a real good job, but me is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, we know it takes a group to get it done. So shout
For
out
sure.
to everybody that is part of the team. You talked a little bit about the bookings side of it, and Brandy and Rye, or Brandy helping out on that side.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of volume do you target in terms of number of shows? Like, what's an ideal number of shows that you would like to play in a given month or year?
Usually for a year, uh, between 75 and 150 shows feels pretty good.
Okay.
And that, I know that's a wide variety, but 150 is great. 75, I'm comfortable, and anything in between will suit me. I've done a little more some years, and I've done quite a bit less than others, and I don't work as hard as Dallas Moore. Can't hit those kind of numbers, but
Not many can.
Yeah. Well, speaking of all of that, I would like for you to. We've talked about this a little bit. Every now and then we talk about it, but can you explain when you said that you, as far as like your merch table, if someone goes to your site or one of your shows and buys, a shirt, whatever the case would be, like I did in Memphis.
Shout out to you,
What that means to you and just other independent artists in general, especially when you're out not in Kentucky, when you're on the road, what those things mean to you guys.
that if it wasn't for merch, sometimes there would be quite a bit of money spent on a show. I mean, it's fuel in the van, it's groceries sometimes. Sometimes it's a room to stay in and take a shower. That is really where the most of the money comes from, as far as keeping everything rolling. If it wasn't for the merch table, I mean, we'd we'd have to be local pretty much. I mean, even sometimes that's what a show is. It's
That
maybe you get your gas money, and the rest of it it's you get paid from the merch table.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that part of it, but yeah, that as far as the fact of if it wasn't for pushing the merch and slinging the merch, then yeah, you would have to stick where you could drive home every night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never really, I didn't. I mean, I know how the how much the merch means, but I didn't think about it in that context. As far as it lets you reach out and go meet some new people and go to the next town that might be even further away from home.
Yeah.
All those things. So definitely, y'all go. If you're watching this podcast, you probably already go to shows, but if you don't, yeah, go catch a show. Buy some merch from any of these independent guys that
Absolutely.
yeah, and we've said it before. When you go see one, it's the trail. You'll start finding the next person, the next person. You got one there, Talbot, or
I do. I have several
okay?
actually. Just curious, how do you? I don't know if it's something you spend time thinking about or not, but do you goal set? Do you look out down the road and go, hey, I want to do this or I want to do that and try to figure out how you're going to make that happen?
I never really did to start with, and that's something that being with Brandy and Rye, we've sat down a few times and said, and sometimes it's just a weekly thing. Sometimes it's something we need to have done in a month. Sometimes, like with getting this record put together, Brandy was on it. We talked about it on a Wednesday, and she had everything in place by Thursday morning. I mean and we were like, we're going to be in there. This is the date, and so on and so forth. So up to working with them, I really hadn't. I was just kind of. It makes me sound ornery when I say it out loud, but I just kind of I was enjoying just doing. Like I said, I never realized this sort of thing I could do for a living. So I was eating it up, and once we really started doing this sort of goal setting thing and working like we are now, I look back and realize that really I've been resting on my laurels since 2022, or so I've been sitting back a little bit too long, just kind of riding that wave, and eventually it's going to hit the bank. So you got to get your hind end in gear. So yeah, it's something we're really focusing on now is goal set.
Well, and then you touched on this a little bit, and I think we chatted about it just a hair before we got started. But can you talk a little bit about the new project and what you've got going on with the new stuff?
Yeah. So it's again that I can't remember specifically when the last record came out. It's been a while, 2, 3, 4 years, something like that now, and that's a long time to be sitting idle. So we've got some stuff coming out. A lot. I say a lot. Some of the stuff will be stuff I've been carrying around with me, playing at a few shows, but nothing that's ever been recorded before, never out, on a mass scale. And just because I'm real fond of the songs, but we're going to have some brand spanking new stuff on it too. And well, hopefully before the end of summer, we're going to have. I'd like to have everything done by then, but that's one of those. That's a goal I've set. We're going to see if we can get it done. But sometimes you're at the mercy of the business part of Nashville. So everybody's doing it down there. So sometimes you got to wait. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to have some music out, if not all of it, by the end of the summer.
Very much looking forward to it.
Well, as always, we're glad that folks tune in on YouTube and Facebook and everything to see these live and give some interaction. So if you when you're watching these things and you have questions for anybody that we have on, again, whether you know them or not, ask. And Cynthia asked one earlier, and I'm just now seeing this. As far as back in the day with your first early on songs, have you ever gotten to the point where those were recorded?
Let's see. One of my very first EPs that I ever did was called "Thoughts from the Whiskey Bench."
Mm-hmm.
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think all of those were some of my earlier songs. Not the earliest, but they're ones that I really don't play a lot now, just because I've got better material. So they're some of them were on that Thoughts from the Whiskey Bench. But as far as the really early stuff, I never did record. I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Understood completely. All right. So how about you?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out because we encourage the questions, and if I don't read them,
love
then
the questions.
you can't ever be a jackass. I don't want to be a jackass on the podcast.
I guess one of my questions is, I'm curious of somebody that's giving you really, really good advice, and then somebody that's giving you really crappy advice. And you don't have to say who that person is, but I would like to know what the advice was.
I've been real fortunate not to get any crappy advice, or if I did, I'd just brush it off as that immediately and didn't pay any attention to it. Yeah. And on the same coin, I've been real fortunate to the advice that I have got. It's been all been pretty good advice. Some stuff's been more helpful than others, just from the way that I go about doing things or whatever. But that going. It's really that well's deep enough that I'm trying to pick something out. It's all over the place. I don't know that I can pick anything. I was always, I guess it wasn't advice, but something crappy that I was told about going to Nashville. I'd always heard about how cutthroat it was and you couldn't trust nobody, blah, blah, blah. And then when I got down there, I figured out, that nobody, I'm sure those people are down there. I didn't get around them. And maybe I just picked the right places to be, but,
To be fair, those folks are everywhere.
oh yeah, for sure.
Like, I mean, I think at least the interactions that we have had with folks in Nashville have all been great.
Oh yeah.
But in anytime you get that many people in one place, you're going to find some folks that they're going to maybe
100%.
not be out for your best interest. So
Yeah.
I also kind of am curious. What would you be doing if you weren't doing music?
That's another one I was thinking about too. So we're see.
That is,
Or one brain. It's not a big brain, but just one.
that's a good question. I built fences and worked in the sawmill before, so I figured it'd be something of that nature. I figured I would do one of those things for the rest of my life anyway, or some sort of just a labor job.
Yeah.
And if man could have made money being in the woods and fishing and drinking and riding a bike, I'd have been a millionaire by now. But likely as not, I'd been in a sawmill or building fences and just scraping by like I figured was just the nature of folks from around here. But you don't have to do that. That's something I again was fortunate enough to find out, and being around some of the folks that's helped me along. Kind of never necessarily opened any doors, but they definitely turned a light on and showed me that there was a door there. I had options, and that's pretty neat.
Did you, during any of your previous work, did you ever kind of find yourself, I don't know, getting hit with the creative juices while you're working?
All the time. Yeah, and I don't know specifically if you meant like working at a sawmill or working on projects. Yeah, that was one of the times, especially, well, either one of those, when I worked at sawmill, it was just loud all the time, or when I was building fences, most of the time I was operating a tractor, so it's pretty noisy, and I was by myself, noisy, couldn't talk to nobody, so I was in here the whole time, and it was really good for the creativity side, and it's something that I look back on now, having access to so many different distractions that I don't really spend a lot of time in my head anymore, and I feel like sometimes that slows me way down on getting writing done.
Well, it's a good I mean, it's a good fallback in case you run into a pickle and you hit a little bit of a block or whatever. You go, well, I know where I can go and still
Go get on the tractor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So as far as I've seen your live show at least with you, solo. But if folks come see you play, what can they expect when they come see one of your shows?
I'm gonna yell at them for sure. I'm not a storyteller by nature, but I've kind of fell into it and found my groove one way or the other. Especially in the solo shows, I'll tell little stories in between, tell them about why I wrote a song or whatever, and I'm gonna sing them some good old fashioned Eastern Kentucky kind of something or another. I don't know what it is. I took a healthy dose of everything that's ever influenced me one way or the other and just poured that out into stuff. And the band shows are great. We don't play as many of them as I'd like to right now, but hoping that's going to change pretty soon too.
Very cool. What about as far as if we were to go hop in the pickup and you got your phone connected, what's some stuff that might pop up and play?
Brandon picks out of stuff that I'm listening to, you're likely to hear some Muddy Waters. You're likely to hear some Hank Jr. You're likely to hear some Lester Platt and Earl Scruggs, Lightning. Hopkins, Daggone, Whiskey Myers, Blackberry Smoke for sure. It's going to be a pretty wide variety.
That's
I dig
okay.
it. I have a Lightning Hopkins story, but I can't tell it on here. So we'll just keep that to ourselves.
All right,
Are we ready for a
sounds good.
little
Yeah.
rapid fire?
Yep.
All right, Brandon, here we go. These are designed to be where you don't have to think a ton, but then we put the questions together and realize that they're kind of hard, so sorry. What is an album that you purchased more than once? So maybe you bought it on CD or on, I don't know, you're not old enough for a tape, but
Bought tapes back in the day.
way back in the okay, all right. So a tape, a CD, maybe an album. I don't know what your room looks like, but is there an album that you bought more than once?
For sure. I don't remember which one, but for sure a Hank Jr. album.
Okay. Yeah. Hank was getting a lot of play for a while. So that makes sense. All right. Dinner with one historical figure. You get to choose them either dead or alive. You can choose from the three folks that we talked about earlier, or you can choose somebody else.
Theodore Roosevelt.
Teddy. All right. Nice. Share some hunting stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Tell me what your ideal green room looks like.
Oh, bigger than a closet, smaller than a dining room. Just and with preferably with a door.
That seems helpful.
That's the funny part is when you ask that question, you can tell a lot of artists are just like just give me a green room. Just like a room would be a great start. Would be
If I have one for sure thing that I look for in a green room, it's whatever I'm sitting on can be wiped off and not cloth seats.
Right. That's a good answer.
People spill beer, you know.
Yeah. First concert that you went to, and then first concert that you paid money to go to.
Well, for all intents and purposes, I was in the womb, but first concert I went to was Bad Company, I was told. The first one I ever paid for, I believe, was Jamie Johnson, and I can't remember who else was there. And Lord, that's been many moons ago, though, in Winchester, Kentucky.
Was that
great
during
answers right there.
Rowdy's time with Jamie?
Probably. I can't remember for sure.
I got you.
All right, two more questions for you, and then I will hand you off to Soul Gravy for a really, really important question. One fictional character that you'd like to have as a friend.
A fictional character you'd like to have as a friend.
It could be movies, books, whatever.
That one's got me.
That's a new one.
That's a good one.
Well, I'll give you a different one. Last movie that you saw at the theater.
Twisters.
Twisters. All right.
Okay.
They screwed up that soundtrack, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, it could have been way better.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Last question that I have for you is tribute bands, yay or nay?
Yes and no.
Okay.
That's a situational dependence.
Okay. What's the situation?
If
If they're
they're good or not.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah.
I've seen some tribute bands that are close, but like, are y'all familiar with that uncanny valley thing where you see something that looks like a face? It messes with your mind. You don't really know why. Like if it's close, like you can, like, all right, that's all right, but not really. But, yeah.
Right.
I don't know. It's not my thing, but I don't hate them for it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Understood.
That's a
Understood.
very political answer. Good job.
Okay. All right. So one before we get to the final one, when I say sad song, what's the first song that pops in your mind? If I say
Chisel and Stone.
Chiseled in Stone, Vern Gosdin.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great one.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask that because of all the different artists you were naming, I was curious of which direction you'd go, but you can't go wrong with Vern. So, all right. So this is the most important question. It started as a joke on episode number 1, and now it is a requirement that we ask. And so, Brandon, what is your favorite Little Debbie snack?
Oh, wow. Uh, Fudge
You
Roll.
know.
Probably that Little Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah,
Yes,
Fudge
sir.
Roll is great.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
We
That's
haven't had
team.
fudge rounds for a little bit, so that's good to
No, that's
hear.
team me over here. So
Yeah,
okay.
that's Team Soul
All right.
Baby.
Okay. All right. So make sure you go follow Brandon on all of his socials. He's going to have music coming out in late summer, early fall. That's kind of the goal at this
Yep.
point. But go follow on all the socials. I'm sure he will be him or his team will be letting you know when that stuff is on the way. If they ask for promotion or go to the pre-save or any of that stuff, any of these artists to do that stuff, please go do so. It just helps everybody out. That it doesn't cost anything. Just go help a homie out and hit that button and share and go. Like I said earlier, go to a show.
Yeah.
Go
Buy
to
some
a
merch.
show. You'll
Yeah.
never regret it. There's been so many times where we go to see one person and then you see the opener and you end up at the merch table talking to them. Then you're a fan of a new person. I'm sure you've done it. I'm sure you've done it yourself.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Brandon. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.